As of today, it's January 21st, 2015. And on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, I saw possibly the best movie of the year, Selma. Now, what is Selma? Well, Selma was an event where Martin Luther King Jr. marched on a bridge in Alabama to stand up for equal rights for African American citizens and to push for the Voting Rights Act. Now, the brilliance of this film is that it's a great character study of Martin Luther King Jr. We all know the man, the legend, the iconic great hero that stood up against oppression, that stood up against bigotry, that stood up against violence and savageness, and he stood up against the Vietnam War, and he stood up against fucking ignorance in general. But the brilliance about Selma was that we look into Martin Luther King Jr., the man. Now, I already read a lot about Martin Luther King Jr. in my life. He's one of my heroes. So I know that yes, some of his political views were socialist. But the great thing about it is that we see a lot of his personal life. We see some of his struggles with Coretta Scott King, his wife. We see him struggling if the movement and the cause, if the March on Selma is worth it. We see Lyndon Johnson encouraging Martin Luther King to do the March on Selma. And Lyndon Johnson, played by Tom Wilkinson, who does a great job as him, says, look, I want you to go in and lead this march rather than some black nationalist like a Malcolm X. So he goes and leads, somewhat reluctant, but believing in the cause and believing that the fight for equality is important and necessary. And we really see a lot of shady shit, that went on at the time. LBJ is encouraging him to do it. And LBJ, at the time, is like, look, I want to do the war on poverty. I have a lot of other agendas on my mind. In fact, there's a great scene in the film where he even says to Martin Luther King Jr., you're an activist. I'm a politician. You've got one issue. I've got several. And you see the great scenes between Lyndon Johnson and Martin Luther King Jr. discussing what's necessary for the people. And at a few points, you can kind of see where Lyndon Johnson was coming from. But Martin Luther King obviously has the stronger position and has the better arguments in certain situations, saying, look, Lyndon, people won't remember the Civil Rights Act. They will remember this Voting Rights Act. They will reflect your legacy forever. And eventually Lyndon Johnson signs it. And another great thing about the film is that we see a lot of the politics, and we see Governor George Wallace, what a douchebag, asshole, scumbag, motherfucker, played fantastically by Tim Roth. He plays just this arrogant, bastard, racist, Southern pride, the South will rise again type piece of shit. And you just want to punch in the face. And there are so many scenes in the movie that reminded me of scenes out of 12 Years a Slave, where they're just heart-wrenching and aggravating to watch, and to understand and acknowledge that some of this shit that happened in Selma in the 60s is still going on today. It's maddening and insane that this didn't happen that long ago. This happened only 50 years ago in this country. And that's the amazing thing. And another great scene is that throughout the film we see him talk to his wife. We see him, in fact, his wife brings up the cheating tapes that the FBI took. And there's a great scene where she's like, do you love those other women? Do you love me? Because she basically says, look, I've stood there day and day and day waiting for you, being at your side. And it's like, and this is what you do behind my back? It's such a good scene. And the great thing is, about the actor who played Martin Luther King Jr., is that you are not seeing an actor play Martin Luther King Jr. You are seeing the man himself in this movie. And it is an insult to the Academy, and an insult to cinema, that this man was not nominated for Best Actor. Because you know what? Playing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the most daunting tasks you could face. You are playing one of the greatest leaders in the world. And this man played him so perfectly. And he did it with such enthusiasm. And he did it with such conviction that you could see him analyzing Dr. King. That it made you look into Martin Luther King's mind. It made you look and say, my God. At points, it makes you, the viewer, see Martin Luther King as a human being, not just as a great historical figure that you learn about in history class here and there, or in elementary school during discussions prior to Martin Luther King Day. No, you see the man. You see that he was human, like everyone else. That he had his anger problems, that he had his struggles, that he had doubts about the cause. And he was worried about losing lives, more lives, because of the scene prior with John Lewis leading the march. And you see them beating the crap out of these marchers, these peaceful protesters, just demonstrating their First Amendment right. And it's just horrifying, even with the PG-13 rating, and the director captures that. It captures that. And it shows that the United States had its own form of the SS. I'm not talking about, oh, well, like it had like Nazis, or, oh, it wasn't like a Nazi party. No, but there were elements of that savageness and that evil ideology known as bigotry and hatred for your fellow man, just because they were a different skin color. Now, that's the positives, and this movie is truly the best movie of the year. And I am offended that this movie didn't get nominated even more. Because as I said, it's about damn time they made a movie about Martin Luther King Jr. And for it to be done with such grace and brilliance as it was done. And for it to just get snubbed at the Oscars. Ugh. God, as I said, it's an insult to cinema and the art of film itself. Now, let me calm down a little bit before I just rant about the Academy. I'm not one of those people who think, oh, the Academy Awards was racist, blah, blah, blah. Because I'll be honest, it's kind of a bullshit argument, because 12 Years a Slave, hello. And I don't really know how the Oscar system works, but I'll research a little more. Now, let me talk to you about my one problem. It's kind of a big problem. Now, I'm sure many people have probably seen this great photo. What is that photo? It's one of the greatest images where you see two men who had, at points, a common goal, shake hands, who had different ways of achieving that goal. Equal rights for African American. Now, there's a great scene between Coretta Scott King and Malcolm X, where Malcolm X is talking to Coretta Scott King, saying, look, I've been to Mecca, I'm a changed man. And Coretta Scott King's like, look, you did this, you called Martin this, you know, and you expect us to really let you in. He's like, look, I would be honored if I could talk to Martin Luther King. I would be honored if I could be at your side. And he says to her, look, they know Martin's nonviolent. They don't know that I've changed. So he's basically saying, if Martin needs my support in this matter, I've got his back. And Coretta talks to Martin and says, God damn it, Jenny. Okay, she doesn't say that. But she comes to Martin when he's in prison. And this is a brilliant scene of the actor and the Yes, now I'm going to do the rest of this video with my hamster. Hey, you were running. Okay. Now, we see Martin Luther King basically say, basically say about Malcolm X, you want me to talk to that motherfucker? He says it a lot more eloquently than that, but that's just the basic gist of it. And it kind of wastes it. It wastes a great opportunity to show a good discussion, or like a 5, maybe 7-minute scene where you just have Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X talk about their ideologies a little bit, and discuss and have a debate, and talk to each other. And it just kind of throws Malcolm X in there as, hey, there's Malcolm X. Oh, now I'm mentioning him in this speech about a innocent black guy who got murdered brutally by police. Yeah. Anyway, what's Selma to me? Selma is a masterpiece. Anyone who respects and admires Dr. King as much as I do, or if you just want to learn more about him, see this film. It's the best movie of the year. This movie is a clear and obvious 10 out of 10 film. Brilliantly acted by everyone in the cast. And one of the most ambitious historical movies of all time. I am definitely going to buy this on Blu-ray. It will be a worthy addition to my collection. Well, they finally did it, Martin. May you rest in peace. Live long and prosper and have a great day.